Hello, I'm Michael. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is coming out soon, and I think it's looking pretty cool. One aspect I've been impressed by is its cinematics, especially with the way the characters are animated, like the scene where Samus rolls to dodge Silex's attack. I think it looks really smooth and clean. But I'm curious to see how Samus's physical body language is going to be presented in this game, which is the subject of this video. Samus's body language has been fairly consistent over the years, and has been the way much of her character has been shown in previous titles. I'll go over some examples. One would be the scene in which she encounters Ridley in the opening of Metroid Prime. We see her rapidly clenching her left fist as a sign of her anger and perhaps anxiety when confronting Ridley, and is followed by her furiously shaking her arm with an angered expression. Prime 2 showed her remorseful over the deaths of the Marines, kneeling, closing a dead Marine's eyes, and lowering her head. Later, we see how she is reminiscent and sentimental, whether that's shown through her gazing off into the distance or by remembering the deaths of those close to her or fallen comrades. Now I want to focus on Metroid Other M. At the time of its release, it was the most cinematic game in the series, and while the developers made extensive use of dialogue and monologue, they made sure not to skimp out on the visual storytelling and the usage of body language. Though I felt previous titles animated Samus really well, I felt Other M took it a step further. I think later titles like Samus Returns and Dread still had great use of visual storytelling, especially when it comes to body language, but I still appreciate how Other M was able to convey who Samus was as a whole. Feelings and emotions like sadness, anger, happiness, hesitation, frustration, playfulness, and more are all able to be presented through body language alone. What otherwise takes the entirety of Metroid games to showcase, Other M is able to do all that in just one game. Of course, this isn't knocking the other games, they had different goals and concepts, but I suppose I appreciate how Other M was conceptualized to focus on cinematic storytelling so that we could get scenes like these. I like how we are able to spot consistency in her body language from past games, as well as the new reaction Samus has through the new context Other M presents her in. I want to showcase and analyze several scenes from Other M. Near the end of the game, Samus has to find and save a survivor who has locked herself inside of a room. When Samus gets close to the door, she can see the woman through the window. Samus needs to get her attention, and so she goes to knock on the glass, but hesitates and unclenches her fist, pulling slightly back before clenching it again, and instead of knocking, she gently taps the glass. These few seconds tell us a lot of Samus's character. Samus knows what horrors this woman has been through, so she doesn't want to scare her by appearing too imposing. This is why she hesitates, so she can make her approach appear less threatening. Samus wants to save this woman, but she also wants to ease her mind. And though this didn't exactly work out, it still shows how thoughtful Samus is of others, especially in this sort of survival situation. We can connect this to Samus's past, where she too experienced a terrible slaughter and came out as a sole survivor. As these scenes can parallel one another, perhaps Samus recalled how Old Bird came to rescue her from the aftermath of the raid on her home, and his gentle approach to soothing her after the tragedy she lived through. I just find it incredible how much I'm able to infer from such a short 3-second piece of animation, and it goes to show that when placed in its proper context, body language can reveal a lot about a character. At the end of the game, Samus is protecting Madeline from MB, where she's seen holding Madeline back with her free arm whilst keeping her arm cannon aimed at MB. A group of Federation soldiers charge onto the scene, pointing their guns at Samus and Madeline. We see Samus quickly back up while once again using herself to shield Madeline, as well as pointing her arm cannon at the soldiers. In the aftermath, a few soldiers again tell Samus not to move while pointing their guns at her. Samus quickly takes a few steps back, but unlike last time, restrains herself from raising her arm cannon on them. This is likely due to no one but herself being in harm's way, as we had seen her previously assume similar protective stances she used with Madeline when protecting others, but now that it's just herself, she doesn't seem to feel the need to raise her arm cannon. Later, she is confronted by a corrupt Federation colonel who uses his authority to prevent Samus from having any contact with Madeline. Saddened and frustrated by this, Samus lowers her head and shuts her eyes. The colonel then taunts her about her illegally confiscating the infant Metroid from SR-388, which causes Samus to send an angered look back at him. He then orders her to be escorted away. Samus turns away from the colonel and looks back toward Madeline. We also see her hand is clenched a bit. A soldier comes to take Samus away, and he does so by grabbing her arm and tries to pull her, but isn't able to move her, as Samus is standing her ground and not letting herself be moved. She also briefly clenched her hand again. She's also looking away as he grabs her, but when he reveals himself as Anthony, she immediately relaxes and has a look of surprise and excitement. we see her hand is now fully unclenched. Anthony settles the situation with the Colonel, allowing Madeline to go with Samus. Then Anthony gives a wink and a thumbs up, to which Samus replies with a nod and a smile. From this whole ordeal, we can see Samus as protective and concerned for Madeline, to regretful and frustrated at her lack of legal authority to save Madeline, to suspicion and anger when the Colonel taunts her over her rescuing the baby Metroid, to a stoic contemplation on what to do next, to finally relief and happiness upon seeing Anthony and his intervention allowing Samus to escort Madeline. So many emotions, so many sights of Samus in just one scene. I appreciate how much Other M was able to add to her character, so later games like Samus Returns and Dread were able to expand upon these additions. An example is when Samus first meets the baby Metroid. Super Metroid first depicted this scene as Samus first pointing her arm cannon at the baby, then lowering it. Other M changed her initial reaction, where she now restrains from pointing the cannon, but adds a scene where she extends her arm out and the baby floats around her hand. Though Samus Returns reverts Samus' initial reaction to Super's version, where she points the arm cannon at the baby, it thankfully keeps the addition from Other M where she extends her hand outward. This is an important piece of imagery between Samus and the baby. It originates from Metroid Fusion, where she looks at herself post-operation when she was infused with the baby's DNA to save her life, and it's shown in other scenes in Other M, but also in Metroid Dread. A part of Dread's story is Samus' slow transformation into a Metroid, which is visualized by Samus looking at her left hand, feeling something isn't quite right. Later, she's able to use powers attained from her Metroid DNA, fully awakening inside her, such as absorbing the life from enemies. When she realizes this, she takes a moment to process it, then fully accepts this in a powerful clutch of her fist. It is this power that allows her to defeat Ravenbeak when she fully transforms into a Metroid. She has become the Metroid which saved her life. This narrative thread is greatly strengthened by Other M, and its depiction of Samus' body language regarding her interactions with the baby. We can see how Dread pays homage to Other M, as despite having its own ending image, it's also represented in Super's ending image, where Samus is depicted as reaching out to the baby Metroid's exploded particles. Between Samus Returns, Other M, Fusion, and Dread, we can see a complete arc with this imagery.
Still alive. The baby. Time to go. thanks to the hyper beam, which was given to me somehow by the baby. I laid Mother Brain to waste. And the explosion that followed destroyed planet Zebes, along with the remains of Mother Brain, the space pirates, and my long-standing nemesis, Ridley. And the baby. Not even a fragment. None of the baby remained on me. I knew it to be true, but still couldn't help looking at my palm for a sign. Never again would I encounter the baby. Never. The finality of it struck me once again.
energy.
Next time you are watching Metroid cinematics, pay close attention to how Samus is animated. It can reveal a lot about her, even if the scene is heavy on monologues or dialogue. There's so much more I could cover, and maybe I'll do so in a future video, but for right now, I don't want this one getting too long, so I'm gonna end it here. I hope we'll get more Metroid games with as much attention to detail as Other M had with its cinematics and its depiction of body language, even if they aren't as cinematically driven. I look forward to hopefully counting Metroid Prime 4 as one of them. I hope you're having a good day or night. Bye. See you next mission.